Finally, time to talk about Credit Roll from Right Place, Wrong Person. It's a short song, but the album definitely wouldn't be complete without it. So we talked about in the last video how Around the World in a Day tied up a lot of the themes of the album into a package for us to understand. You know, the last song was the climax, the epiphany, and then the resolution of the album. This song is The Credits Rolling, which is a perfect name. And side note, the name of the song is technically Two Little Symbols and Credit Roll. I know that the symbols are for like tears running down a face, crying faces. I don't know how you say it. I don't actually know how you type it. Every time I have to type it, I have to go Google another article about it. So I minimally curse RM every time I have to do that because it's slightly annoying. Anyway, this song is lyrically and musically a lot more simple than the other songs on the album. It's kind of a relief, to be honest, that there was so much to listen to in the rest of the album. This one's kind of a break for your ears. And it lets you focus on the message and really think about the questions he's asking you. When the song starts out, you still hear some interesting dissonant sounds, and there's this kind of womp womp voice that every time I hear it, it reminds me of this little character, which I think of as kind of like a frog. I think this is maybe RM's image of himself sometimes. Anyway, to me, this character is the one singing this song, kind of, or at least that's the womp womp voice in the background. And the sound of this song is very synthetic compared to the last song. And I also wanted to note, it's all in English. And I ask myself why. I talked about in the last video that in this album, sometimes it feels like when he's speaking Korean or when he has whole verses in Korean, it's more of his true voice. I don't mean to say that I think that's less of his true voice, but I've had this kernel of a thought for a while and I've almost been afraid to voice it. RM has talked several times about how the English language songs and the promotion of them were really difficult for him and how he felt like he lost control or he felt like he lost his grasp of BTS during that time. He talked about it at the 2022 Festa dinner, which we watched last week in the content. I can't quite wrap my head around the thought I'm starting here. The choice of when to use English versus Korean in this album feels related to that. And if I ever turn it into something coherent, I'll make a video. Since there aren't very many lyrics in this song, let's just go through all of them. When the credits roll, do you hang tight? Seems pretty simple. Are you the type to hang around? And it reminds me of Take Two, the question, will you stay? Which I think they've asked in other songs. They ask this question all the time. They seem shocked that we're still here. We're still here, okay? We're gonna stay. And that made me wonder, what are the credits rolling here? And I thought of a number of things. There could be more. If you have others that I didn't mention, please feel free to leave them in the comments. So the credits roll. Obviously, it's the end of the main story of the album. It's the end of BTS's chapter 1. I think to some degree it's the end of RM being Mr. Nice Guy. Like he said a bunch of times in the album that he was gonna end the masquerade and be more of himself. Maybe try to be a less manufactured version of himself. And of course, there will always be a separation between Kim Namjoon, the person, and RM, the idol. There will always and should always be a separation there. But I think sometimes he had to fake it more than he was comfortable with. It's also the end of him yelling at everything, sometimes including ARMY. Because yeah, he had a lot of anger to get out in this album. And finally on my list, the end of one or several toxic relationships. And relationships, again, doesn't necessarily mean a romantic relationship with a specific person. It could be a relationship with himself or certain parts of himself, with fame, with the media, with fans. I'll put fans in quotes. Then he says, do you stay inside or go off to life? Which I think has at least two meanings. The first to himself. Are you going to stay hidden away in a safe place? Are you going to hide away from people? Or are you going to get back out there? Are you going to, metaphorically get on that horse again? And also to their fans. Are you going to leave BTS or are you going to go back out to your normal life and forget about us? This ties into a couple of things that made me think of. One was a speech he gave at, I think, one of the Love Yourself concerts. I think it was Love Yourself Soul, the final, but if somebody knows differently, again, please let me know. He talked about how he or they felt like ARMY was kind of growing up and moving on without them. They were getting to experience things in life that BTS wasn't. And that made me really sad. It made me, that's what I was thinking of here is like, are you going to go off and have your great life without us? And also, of course, ties to the music video, which I probably need to make a whole series about the music videos, but I can't even think about that right now. If you haven't seen it yet, he's sitting there performing in somebody's living dining room area and they're watching him. Well, he's sitting there performing, they're ignoring him. He's also in the same room on a TV as the performer and they're ignoring that too. They're sitting there having like a family meal. Oh, that hurt. That hurt to watch. Like, is that how they feel sometimes? It probably is how they feel sometimes, and that hurts. Finally, I'm so grateful for everyone's time. Kind of thanks for hearing me out even when it was uncomfortable. Thanks for giving me a chance. And like, it's so endearing. Like, he got mad in this album and it's so sweet of him to thank us for listening to it. And maybe the way you say thanks to a friend when they hear you process stuff out loud and you're just like, man, thanks for listening. And finally, one of my favorite lines, hope you all had such a wonderful night, which ties into my idea that the album is a book with Grind as the spine. This song, in some ways, feels like a foil of the song Nuts. So this is the second to last track. Nuts was the second from the first track. They're both saying goodbye, but in very different ways. Nuts is like, you screwed me up. I wish you well, but like, get out of my life. And this is inviting people back, saying, please don't leave me, in a good way. So the rest of the song is just that verse again, and it ends with the question, when the credits roll, do you hang tight? The thing I want to note about the same lyrics twice is the first time he sings it, it's just him and the kind of womp womp melody in the background. The second time it's with support and friends, which I think is really important. He's talked about several times how friends helped him heal, and I think it's important that the friends are singing with him on the second verse. For those who just found this video, this is a series I'm making where I'm going through every track on RM's Right Place, Wrong Person, just to talk about the music and the lyrics, and it's been a really enlightening experience for me. For those of you who have been watching the videos and leaving comments, thank you so much. It really gives me the motivation to keep going, to know that even a few people are finding it worthwhile or interesting. So yeah, if you're new, please go check out my profile and you can watch the rest of the series. Oh, I did want to talk about the artwork. So this is how it looks on the page of the album. This is credit roll. So maybe this picture with the fox is related to credit roll, or this one with the knight, which is on Lost, which goes to the other page. Anyway, it's a little unclear where this fits. I definitely think this picture is related to Come Back to Me, so I'm going to skip it for now. And as always, if you have more thoughts or different thoughts about this song, please feel free to share them in the comments.